first or second play of the game, it opens up. So I think, I'm just going to slow play it, probably just try to get him on the ground. Man, that man juked me so crazy and went for about 80. All I could see all that night, with him put the hand behind the head, shaking me. Yeah. So that was my welcome to the NFL moment, was a baptism from LaDainian Tomlinson on national TV.
Yeah, money, ain't that funny? I got haters, yeah, they watching, but I know they love me. Money, ain't that funny? I got haters, yeah, they watching, but I know they love me. Riding around the city, plastic cup of C-Rock, bigger and I'm blacker, I am on that Chris Rock.
Ladies and gents, welcome back once again. All things covered, yours truly, Patrick Peterson, Bryant McFadden, and you see on our video, we have another big-time guest for you guys to sit back, entertain, and enjoy this conversational setting we have for you guys. Former first-round selection, 2006 NFL Draft. This man went top 10 as well, Pat P, number 8 to the Buffalo Bills, three-time Pro Bowler, former Ohio State Buckeye great, and currently partner with the Kirtland Hills Capital Company. Financial firm doing a lot of big time things. Also 11-year vet, no other than the great Donte Whitner. Thank you for joining us. How you doing? How you feeling, my guy?
I'm doing great, guys, man. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation and getting deep into, things that I've been doing since I retired from the NFL and how we're trying to change a lot of players' lives.
Oh, no question, man. This is what we love to do, man. I was a big time fan of you guys, man. When you came out of Ohio State, going to Buffalo, going to San Francisco, man, your style of football fit how we used to do things in Pittsburgh, man. We don't really see that nowadays. So I've been following you throughout your career, and of course, post football as well. So you're doing big time things. So there's a lot we're going to digest. So Ohio State Buckeye fans, don't worry, we got some cool nuggets for you guys, and the same can be said throughout his NFL career. But first and foremost, Pat P, one thing about Donte, when you talk about being a professional athlete, we all go through adversity, right? Mm-hmm. But this man faced his first major piece of adversity at the age of 6. Donte, please tell all of us how chasing the football at the age of 6 kind of changed your life early on when you talk about what happened when you were chasing that football as a young kid.
I like that correlation right there. 6 years old, I was hit by a car, chasing a football, hit a wire. Mm-hmm. I didn't look both ways, and I was hit by it. It probably should have killed me. And, since that day, I realized how much of a blessing it is to actually just do what I've done for a long time, and that's run around on a football field and hit people. But when you're 6 years old and you get hit by a car and you have 37 fractures from your neck all the way down to your ankles, and you get the doctors that tell you you'll probably never walk and definitely never play sports, there's a lot that goes, into, the part about self-belief. So I started early at 6 years old when it comes to not listening to people tell you what you can't do.
How was it for you? You were in a full body cast for 3 months?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, being that young, I mean, for most people, adults, that would be very, very tough to endure. But how did you get through that, being in a full, so the cast was from your neck down? For 6 months? For 3 months?
For pretty much 3 months. And I had a thing here across the waist where I could bend. And then I had a strap right here between my legs where I could use the restroom. But I remember being pulled around in that a red wagon for the entire summer, with a full body cast on. And once I was able to get out of the cast, it was those therapy sessions, which were really grueling. And I have to give a lot of credit to my mom. I remember many days where I was crying and trying to relearn how to walk, and she would just be screaming in the other room, like, I told you to stop crying. You're going to walk again. I told you it's going to be okay. So if I didn't have her there with the support and really implanting that belief that I was actually going to walk again, it probably would have never happened.
So Donte, tell me, because I never saw anyone in a full body cast before. You just see it on cartoons. So, when they first put it on, so you was in the bed, stretched out, legs all up and stuff like that as well?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Damn.
Arms, legs, all the way through my ribs. So then the first thing that came off was the upper body stuff. and then I had to do therapy to get back and get the muscles back moving again. And then it was the longer part was the bottom half of my body.
That's crazy. So, well, fast forward. We all know that you're from Cleveland, Ohio. We know you went to Ohio State. Did Michigan have a chance at getting you? And if they did, if you did not go to Ohio State, what school would you have chosen?
Michigan had a small chance at getting me. Coming out,
Okay.
I was considered, 1A and 1B with Antonio Cromartie to be the top defensive back coming out of school that year. And Antonio Cromartie is our peer that played in the NFL for multiple years.
Yep.
I remember a year we had
Florida
9.
State?
Yeah. So shout out to Antonio Cromartie, because he was always a guy that was pushing me, even though he didn't know he was. So coming out of Glenville High School, guys, we actually have a lot of guys. From Marshawn Lattimore to Ted Ginn Jr., Troy Smith, that won the Heisman. Frank Clark played at my high school and then went to University of Michigan. So naturally coming out, when I narrowed down my schools to my top 5, Michigan was in there. And I actually took an official visit to Michigan where Braylon Edwards and Pierre Woods were my hosts. I quickly cut Michigan out of my top 5. And I remember calling their head coach, Lloyd Carr, at the time and telling him, like, hey, coach, I made a decision. He's like, oh, what is it? I'm like, I'm going to Ohio State, coach. Click, hung up on me. Didn't say congratulations, have a great career, see you in November. It was just cold-hearted click. Hung the phone up on me. So that's when I realized the manipulation and everything that comes along with the coaching and recruiting. But Michigan had a slight chance. If I didn't choose to go to Ohio State, it probably would have been the University of Miami. I actually narrowed my choices down to 5, and University of Miami was there. And I don't tell people this a lot, but Antrell Roll and Sean Taylor were my hosts. So when the top recruit comes, they try to put their top players on it to take you out and bring you in. So Antrell Roll and Jonathan Vilma and Sean Taylor were the 3 guys that hosted me at the University of Miami.
Wait, hey, you made the right decision. You went to Ohio State. You made the right decision.
Yeah. It turned into being a top 10 pick, so it always works out when you get drafted in the top 10.
I was going to ask, were you the highest safety taken out of Ohio State? Drafted out of
I think ever.
Ohio State?
I believe ever drafted out of Ohio State. And then when I go back to high school, I was the highest drafted out of my high school as well because Ted Ginn Jr. came behind me and he was the number 9 pick in 2007. So, I still keep those accolades.
And the great Sean Springs is the highest drafted defensive back ever from Ohio State, right?
Yeah, the great Sean Springs. Yeah, actually, I used to date his sister, Era, in college. She went to Ohio State as well. And then he came in on some investment stuff later when we circled back since I've been retired. So he's on the board at a company out of New York, and I'm also on the board. So when we have these meetings, I go and intermingle with him and his network, and he always drops a few Jews on me.
Well, that's what's up. That's what's up. And talking about your draft process, you entered the draft after your junior season at Ohio State. At what point during your junior year did you realize this probably is going to be my last season in college football?
Well, I was always on the fast track to graduate and get to Ohio State, only play 3 years and be a first-round pick anyway. It wouldn't have gone any other way. That's all I used to think about when I was in college. And I don't know how many people know this as well. You remember how Maurice Claret came out and graduated a few months early to enroll for spring ball? I was actually
which wasn't common back then. That wasn't a common thing.
No, it wasn't. Now it's almost like every quarterback that's on the fast track to be a first rounder actually does it. Well, I was actually the second player only in the country to ever do that. So I graduated high school at 16 and a half years old, and the day that Ohio State beat Miami in the national championship game, I was already at Ohio State ready to enroll in class the next day.
Wow.
So at 16 and a half years old, when winter conditioning and spring ball circled back around, I was there when I should have still been a senior in high school competing with the national champions. right? Waking up for 6 a.m. workouts and, competing against Tyler Everett and Nate Sally and Chris Gamble and all these different guys. It was like a reality check for me. So I was always on the fast track to get there. I wanted to enroll early to learn the system, to get acclimated to the training and get stronger, and then get on the field as a freshman and then play 3 years. So it was always in the plans to go first round, and I didn't even think any other way.
Right.
So my first year struggled a little bit, stayed down at Ohio State throughout the summer to really get a grasp on the playbook, to really get stronger, to really limit distractions back home in Cleveland. And then I got on the field my sophomore year, and it was no looking back, right? Initially, the first time I got on the field, TFLs and sacks and interceptions. I'm like, man, it's starting to feel like high school out here. So going into my junior year is when I really, really honed in. I started to see my name on the Thorpe Award list, and I stayed at school, and I really honed in. And then after that first or second game, when I ran an interception back, I started getting calls from agents telling me, like, hey, man, you can be a first-round pick. And since that started, that just really just fueled that downhill momentum, and it ended up snowballing into becoming a first-round pick.
Yeah, and that fast track came into reality in 2006 with the NFL draft. The Buffalo Bills gave you a call at the number 8 spot. Did you have a good vibe with the Buffalo Bills, or did you feel like another team was going to draft you?
I really don't remember meeting with the Buffalo Bills in any of the pre-draft meetings. I guess they wanted to keep it a secret or something. But I do remember Michael Huff was also in the same draft out of Texas. So it was basically me and him competing who was going to be the first safety off the board. And on draft day, I received a call from the New York Jets, who had the number 4 pick. And they said, Whitner, if DeBrickashaw Ferguson is off the board with the number 4 and we have the number 4 pick, we're going to pick you as safety. So I knew that day that I could have gone as early as the number 4 pick in the draft. And I give you a story about the combine in Indianapolis. It was really cold. My hamstring was hurting. It was early in the morning. And I remember telling myself, like, man, it's a reality. It's really here. All you have to really do is go out and run 4.3, and you can go top 20. So I remember hamstring being tight, getting on the yard, getting down, putting my hand down for the 40-yard dash, and just blasting out and running. And I remember Ozzie Newsome running from the top of the stadium stairs and telling me to come here, because he was really close with my high school head coach, Ted Gann Sr., and he was like, hey, man, I think you should really put your sweats back on and not do anything else today, because what you just ran right there, you just made yourself a lot of money today. So I think on that first one, I ran like 4.38.
Ooh.
It was like the first safety to even crack 4.3 in a number of years. And he was like, man, put your stuff on. You're going to be a high pick. So I shut the workout down that day, and that was the last thing I did that day. So, yeah, shout out to Ozzie Newsome for running down and reassuring me that I didn't have to do anything else. Absolutely. One of the realest GMs. I remember being, even before I got to the Cleveland Browns and before Cleveland was shipped to the Baltimore Ravens, Ozzie Newsome did a lot for the city of Cleveland. Even when he played for the city of Cleveland as a general manager, I think that Cleveland is one of those special places that he'll always have a soft spot for. So I respect Ozzie Newsome for that and for how much he gave back to the city of Cleveland.
Yeah. And you mentioned Huff, Michael Huff, and what most football fans might not remember, you weren't the first safety to come off the board. Michael Huff actually went one spot ahead of you. And that's something that we don't see nowadays in the NFL draft. You know, the safety position is kind of devalued a little bit compared to how it used to be when you came out and some of the other great safeties came out. Why is that? When you look at the game, I know you study the game right now, you know, 2 safeties going top 10 is something that we might not see anytime soon in the draft, like how it was for you during your draft. But when you look at the safety position now, you know, what has changed?
Well, we were very versatile. I'm not saying that guys weren't versatile now. Well, had guys that could run 4.3, that could play nickel and dime, that could play the deep parts of the field, but also play those intermediate zones. Guys who, when you catch the ball, can make you pay for it. So it can affect the game on all different levels. And then it was more of a compact game during those times where you had the big running backs. You had the Pittsburgh Steelers lining up with, Willie Parker and all these different guys. They want to ram the ball down your throat. Now it's more of a wide open game. It's more of a get smaller receivers and bigger receivers in space. So you really need a lot of those cover guys. And then you can't really make an impact right now with the hit because of the way that they changed the rules. So they're going more to a lot of the man corners and smaller guys that can operate in small areas with quickness and make plays on the football. So that's why they're starting to devalue the safety position and give the money to the pass rushers, the cornerbacks like they've always doing, and the wide receivers and quarterbacks. We're actually seeing the game change in front of our eyes with who they choose to pay. You see how they're not paying running backs anymore. During those times, they were paying running backs top dollar as LaDainian Tomlinson and all of these top backs were demanding that. So we're going to continue to see the game change.
And you know what? Talking about how the game has changed, there are a few outliers at the safety position that kind of fit the mold of guys like yourself when you talk about being super versatile. And you talk about a guy that reminds me a lot of how you play the game, also played in the Big Ten, Antoine Winfield Jr.
Yeah.
Go get him.
And his dad was pretty much the best tackling, hardest hitting corner to probably ever step foot on a football field, right? And he did it with this. And I believe that he was, 5'8", if that?
If that, 5'8", maybe 185, between 180, 185, depending on, the time, but no question.
Yeah, so his dad is one of my goats. So when you think about Ahmad Plummer and you think about Nate Clements,
yes, sir,
you got to throw Antoine Winfield in there as well. And he was a first rounder for The Ohio State University, and his son took on that lineage. You can tell that his father was there every step of the way with the way that his son plays the game. And he plays the perfect position. It was almost like Antoine Winfield should have been a strong safety if he was a little bigger in stature.
Yeah, a little
his
heavy.
son took on that mode. Yep. So the instincts, the toughness, the ability to go out and do the dirty work, those are all things that his dad did, and it rubbed off on his son. So he's playing the perfect position in the perfect scheme, right out there in Tampa, and now he's the highest paid safety in the league. So we're gonna see a few more of those guys coming up in the pipeline, but he's an anomaly.
Donte, the highest paid defensive back. Also.
Yeah, defensive back. Sorry, right? Yeah. That means that you make plays on all three levels. And
he's the highest paid. He getting more than, I think Jair Alexander was the most recent highest
19,
paid corner.
Yeah.
He trumped whoever the highest paid corner was, and we never seen that before. So shouts out to Antoine Winfield, and shouts out to the Buccaneers, man, recognizing his worth, man, and paying him his worth, man. That's
absolutely.
And they kind of had to off the year that he had. He got snubbed off the All Pro or Pro Bowl, whichever one that it was. They kind of had a clean face on that as well. Hey, Donte, what was your welcome to the NFL moment?
Ooh, the name I just mentioned, LaDainian Tomlinson. Right, I was coming off a year where, I was number 4 in the NFL in tackles. I think I had 147 tackles at the end of the year.
Damn. Yep.
That's probably a bad sign for a defense, right?
No doubt about it.
We went to the Hall of Fame as the worst. We're in the Hall of Fame as the worst rush defense in NFL history. I think we gave up 200 yards in 8 consecutive games.
What year was that? It was 07?
Man, one of them. Whichever year I had 150 tackles, that was the year. And listen, I mean, it used to open up like the Red Sea every game. I knew I was going to have to make some incredible tackles, and we playing LaDainian the year he had 31 touchdowns. Right? He was killing the league. First or second play of the game, it opens up. So I think, I'm just going to slow play it, probably just try to get him on the ground. Man, the man juked me so crazy and went for about 80. All I could see all that night, with him put the hand behind the head, shaking me. Yeah. So that was my welcome to the NFL moment, was a baptism from LaDainian Tomlinson on national TV.
Hey, wait, you don't feel bad, boy. LaDainian got a lot of people.
I don't feel bad.
No question. People, I think he don't. Even though he's a Hall of Famer, I still don't think he gets his just due. when you look at the running back position, man, LaDainian was that guy, man.
Yeah, so when you think about the guys like Christian McCaffrey, and you think about the guy that's been in New Orleans for so long,
Alvin Kamara.
Alvin Kamara, and that type of mold, he was a smaller guy, and you know he's from Texas, so you know how fast those Texas and quick those Texas running backs are.
Yep.
So that's what LaDainian Tomlinson was, a guy that can catch it out of the backfield, that can, put a move on you, can lower his shoulder on you, and can always hit the home run ball. So he doesn't get enough credit for creating that type of role.
No question. I agree with you. Let's fast forward to the summer of 2011, right? You're free, you're available, you're kind of entertaining different organizations. You almost signed with Cincinnati. So this is a two-part question for you, right? You almost signed with Cincinnati. What happened that led you to sign with the San Francisco 49ers? And I got another follow-up question based on your answer.
Well, it was really a messed up year for any free agent. Remember, that was a year where they were negotiating new CBA.
Yeah, almost a lot.
They had so many free agents, and it was really a buyer's market. So a lot of guys were taking short-term deals, and you didn't really know where you were going to go. People were rushing to sign in different places, and almost rushed and signed with the Cincinnati Bengals, which would have probably been a huge mistake. Have all the respect in the world for Marvin Lewis and all those guys, but they hadn't won anything up until that point. And they were in a desperation mode of trying to sign a safety. So I did slightly commit to those guys, hoping that my agent would bring something else back. And that same day, he said, hey, Coach Jim Harbaugh called and said that you're the perfect guy. He wants you to come out to San Francisco. So I politely, called the guys over from Cincinnati and decommitted, and then committed to, Coach Harbaugh and the fresh start he was starting out in the Bay Area. So I almost ended up in Cincinnati, but I think I made the best move by going out and playing with the San Francisco 49ers.
Yes, sir. You definitely did that. That was the great decision for you and also with the organization in San Francisco. So speaking of Coach Harbaugh, I told you I had a two-part for you. Your first year in San Francisco in the Bay Area was also Coach Harbaugh's first year as well. What led to his early success? Because as you know, 2010 San Francisco, they weren't a good team. I think they might have won 5 games the year before. In comes Coach Harbaugh with this new identity, instant success. So what led to his early success for you guys in San Francisco? And do you think he'll have similar, success stories in year one with the Chargers this season?
Well, one thing about Coach Harbaugh is he's a winner. And winners have a certain criteria and a way that they go about anything that they do. And first and foremost, that's with honesty, and a lot of times brute honesty, to where he's going to hold everybody in the organization accountable for their actions, for the things that they do and that they don't do. What time you clock in, what time you clock out, for your practice habits, for your effort in practice, for your willingness to practice, for your willingness to get to the facility earlier than everybody else and put in the work that other teams aren't willing to put in. So I remember days where we would get up to 250 reps in training camp practice, and he would have somebody spying on the Seattle Seahawks who went go-kart racing that day. That's the type of maniac that he was. Just run as many plays as you possibly can so we can get inside and correct it on the tape. And he doesn't sweep anything under the rug. If you're 1 minute late for a lift, Coach Harbaugh is going to come and look at the camera and pull you out of that meeting and make sure it doesn't happen again. Or I've seen him cut guys on that same day. So that the willingness and the stubbornness to hold everybody within the organization accountable is what makes him successful everywhere he goes. And it's either you get in line or you get out of here. That's the type of reality that he brings to any organization. And like I said, I think that he's going to have the Chargers in the AFC Championship game this year. With the quarterback that he has and the defenders and the way that they're going to play sound defense and force quarterbacks to think and put pressure on you and get to the ball and cause turnovers, and you know he's going to have a top-flight running game with the quarterback that he's going to have, I'm expecting and predicting that, Coach Harbaugh is going to have these guys in the AFC Championship ready to knock on the door for a Super Bowl. So when we all came together during those years, we didn't have any expectations. We were picking Carlos Rogers up from the Washington Redskins, myself coming from Buffalo, Deshaun Goldson going through a contract dispute We went and got Ahmad Brooks, who was at one point was supposed to be a middle linebacker, first round pick, and he ended up playing defensive end. We drafted Alden Smith. So it was a makeshift team with a similar mindset among all individuals. And then you throw our defensive coordinator in there. It made for some special times and some special football. So just like that time, he's going to do the same thing with the Chargers.
Was Vic your DC? I know, Mac. I know you want to get back to the AFC Championship. Vic was your DC when you was in San Fran?
Yep. Vic was the DC, and Ed Donatel, who coached you,
was the corner
in Minnesota, was the defensive back coach. So you know how much we drilled every coverage.
Right.
To where players be wanting to get out of the building. Ed Donatel be like, no, man, get over here. We have to go through this, how they're going to attack this route. To where you'll hear it a million times. So when you get on the field, it's almost like second nature.
Right.
And Vic Fangio was such a before his time defensive coordinator. He wanted to make everything look the same. He put those pass rushers to work, and the game slowed down to where it was almost like I was playing in high school.
Yeah.
To where everybody was on the same accord. So if you can get that, you can make some magic. Yep.
Yeah. Nah, that's dope, man. I'm talking about Mac. You want to ask him about his prediction?
No, he said
I know it's
I have no follow up. He said he laid it out perfectly for us. The Chargers will get to the AFC Championship game, and he gave his reasons why. There's no follow up. The man said Coach Harbaugh is like that, and I got to take his word for it. I never played for Coach Harbaugh, so I got to take this man's word for it because I
just look at the track record, though. Don't take my word for it. Look at the track record of everywhere he's been, even from San Diego State University and all of those different schools. Before he got there, disaster. He arrives, championships happen.
Yeah,
just that's the way it is. And there's a common denominator. It must be Coach Harbaugh and the things that he's teaching and that he demands from his organization.
No question.
Hey, you guys had one hell of a run. I believe you guys made 3 NFC championships in a row, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and a Super Bowl. We should be sitting here with 3 rings.
Yeah, so in 2011, I'm going to take you back real quick. 2011 in the playoff game versus Saints, you made a vicious, game-changing hit against Pierre Thomas. Can you tell me what defensive call that you was in and what you were thinking doing that play, like arriving upon him to make that tackle?
Well, previously the night before, Coach Fangio brought us all, we always have our defensive meetings, last meeting, right before you get your little meal and go to bed. And he was telling the defense that, this offense was at a historic level this year. Yeah. With Drew Brees and Graham and all those different guys, Sproles on the ground, and Pierre Thomas with the power and the slashing, the screens, right? They had so many different guys, and they scored, I think they were averaging almost 40 points a game. So he was saying, listen, this is a momentum offense. If you allow them to come out and just go up and down the field from the beginning of the game, they're going to take the momentum. Our crowd's not going to be in the game. And I'm going to tell you right now, if they score on the first drive of the game, they're going to blow us out. That's what he said, just plain and simple. So I remember all during that drive, I'm thinking like, shit, big play, oh, shit, screen, up, Sproles here, first down. I'm like, oh, man, this is a momentum team. Like, we can't get a beat on this. So we get down in the red zone. So we're giving a 2 shell, but I'm actually playing the flat. But my pre-snap alignment, I'm going to keep my shoulder square, good and inside the receiver, so I can give like a look to the quarterback that I'm doubling for the receiver, Carlos. But then Navarro has Pierre Thomas, who's checking through the line of scrimmage and going to the flat. For some reason, Navarro, who's one of the best coverage linebackers in the history of the NFL, slips and falls down as I'm coming off the fake double look, and I just shoot down to the flat. I see him at the corner of my eye beat Navarro, and Navarro dive, and I'm like, oh, shit, here we go. And I just remember just hit him and give him everything you got. And at that moment, it was just like the perfect moment to catch somebody. Boom! And I remember just seeing the ball come out. I'm like, oh, man, my job is over. I just walked to the sideline. Those guys start scrambling and fighting for the ball, right? So that was a huge play in the game. I get asked about that every time I'm in San Francisco, but that's one of those things where you have to put it all on the line and play just a little bit harder in the playoffs and good things happen for us.
And Mac hit on this earlier on in the show. We talked about the game is kind of changing as far as the enforcers that defenses want to have, but the NFL is kind of taking that out of the game. You've been fined a bunch of times in your career and a few times that season. How do you feel that you were fair in today's game?
I don't think I would have fared well in today's game. Me, Deshaun Goldson.
Oh man,
Deshaun Goldson was bringing it too back there, right?
Yeah,
he was an All-Pro. I think one year he had 8, 9 interceptions.
Uh-huh.
So it was both of us. So they were starting to phase those type of players and plays out of the game. So even when we would come down and have a legal hit, it would just look bad, and they would just flag us. They would go back, check the film, and they would always come back on me and say, "Oh, that was a legal hit. We're going to rescind the fine." I think every time that they tried to fine Deshaun, they actually took the money.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's one thing about it. I was never fined $1 for any of the hits that I put on in the NFL, but it did cost us on the field. They just chose to not fine me because it was just so hard and illegal. Right?
And
it's
also,
not my part that it hurt.
Right. Donte, did Ed ever tell you this? I'm quite sure he did, because you was with Ed, 4 years, right? Or 3?
Yeah, Donatello, I was with Ed 3 years.
So Ed, my first time, my second year in Minnesota, his first year there, he put up some old 49er tape with, who was a safety, man? A Ronnie Lott. So he put Ronnie Lott tape up, and he also put up your tape, and he just talked about how you guys brought the same foot in the shoulder at the same, also with your chest. Shoulder. Yes, sir, with your chest. Yeah. He said that's where you get the power from. And these guys were probably the most fundamentalist tacklers that I've ever been around, and this is how you do it. So I want to give you that those flowers as well. Coach Ed Donatello used to pull up some of your tape as well, man, when you was back in San Francisco.
Oh, man, I appreciate that. Ed, he's always talking about teaching tape. Yep. So no matter what phase in life you're in, he's going to see you and talk about teaching tape and how this perfect rep he remembers from 30 years ago, 20 years ago. So, yeah. But with that, and a lot of young kids out there that's listening or possibly hear this, I practice that a lot. The same foot, same shoulder. I actually envision that. I would envision catching receivers running across the field and me getting a perfect break and then approaching a ball carrier and how am I going to position my body to get the most impactful hit. And usually when you can squat a large number and you can move that weight rapidly, it's probably going to translate into the ability to strike somebody on the football field. But it's not just striking, just running there. It's like at that moment, you have to really lower and bend and actually plant your back foot and strike through the glute at the same time. It's almost like just a natural reaction, but a lot of things I did was a lot of those box squats and all that stuff. And then when you get on the field, just envision yourself running through the target. So even though I was considered a smaller safety, I never felt small on the field.
Yeah. No, you can play small at all, my guy. I was on the sideline a couple times in Arizona. You later boom
like,
on
man, and I feel so bad now, guys. I feel so bad because I talk so bad to people on the field. It was almost like I would never have to see you as a regular human ever again. Right. But I would just get into it and just be talking so crazy.
That's how it's supposed to be. And I remember, early in the show when I gave you your intro, and I was a big time fan of you and just how y'all played ball in San Fran, because that resembled what we used to do in Pittsburgh. Like, I play with a lot of guys who talk crazy to whoever. They just were looking for a motive. Like, stretch line, looking for someone just to get in a beef with verbally, so they can put that into the game, into a reason why I'm really gonna do some dirt to you right now.
I don't know if you guys used to feel this or take the Toradol shot. But as soon as that Toradol shot kicked in, I don't even think I was thinking properly.
You can run through a wall. That Toradol.
What?
That T-shot was
special. That salt under my nose. It's like I'm just looking to run through a brick wall. It's like I'm like, oh man.
Hey, Donte, Pat probably is too young for this, but you were drafted after me. Did you guys ever take? I think it was something called Jack 3D. They ended up.
I don't know. Probably.
It was like a powder. You put in some water. You shake it up. You take it. and it goes through your body. It gives you the ultimate rush for about 3/4.
Was it like really fizzy?
Yeah,
Like
really crazy, and it changed the color of your water.
Man, I cramped up in Miami my first year off that. Yeah, I cramped up. I cramped up my first year, guys. Like first year ever playing in Miami, they still had the baseball diamond out there.
Yeah.
Right?
And it was
man, it was about 118 on the field. I'm playing special teams, 85 snaps on defense. Man, after the game, I went to a full body cramp drinking that stuff.
Oh yeah,
I had to get back on that team playing with the needles and the bags wrapped around my arms from the IVs because they just couldn't wait on me anymore. So I'm telling you, that stuff almost killed me. That fizz almost killed me.
Yeah, they do numbers to you. It's almost like taking a whole 10-pound bucket of caffeine and whatever else they put in there. But you know, that's what, a lot of people don't know. That's what we used to do to get to a whole nother level out there. When you're playing against other grown men that are the best in the world at what they do, man, you trying to get to a whole nother level, man. That's not normal.
Yeah, sometimes that's not it.
Agreed.
I'm telling you.
Agreed. Hey, so I want to fast forward to Super Bowl 47, right, versus the Ravens in New Orleans. The famous blackout occurred in the second half. For you personally, how did the blackout affect the ball game?
What allowed us to calm down? I think they were just up like 3 touchdowns before then. We were doing some uncharacteristic things on defense.
Yes,
were just plays that we normally made. Yep. I remember giving up the touchdown to Anquan Bolden, playing quarters in the red zone, and he runs a post. And I'm playing safety, and I'm like, man, this is a route that I've covered all year long and for the entirety of my career, and I've never given up a touchdown on this, and it just started to happen on that day, right? Mm-hmm. So when the lights went out, it actually allowed us to calm down and get back to basics and start to play sound, fundamental football, especially on defense. Our offense was already kind of rolling. One thing that I can say about the Super Bowl is it doesn't feel like a normal game. Mm-hmm. It does not feel like a normal game. With the lights and everything that's flashing, man, it was hard to catch my breath for the entire first half. I couldn't communicate back there. I couldn't make any checks. I don't know what was going on. It was almost like at certain moments, my feet were in mud. I was moving in slow motion. Yeah. You ever have one of those dreams? Feel like somebody chasing you can't get away?
You can't go nowhere.
That's how I felt in the first half. Like it was so much lactic acid built up. And that first drive was like full play. Right? Dude, I was tired. I was like, man, this is not a normal game. So the Super Bowl does not feel like a normal game. And we should have won it. That should have been one of those that we brought home. I don't know if anybody ever felt like, hey, we won this game, we won the Super Bowl, and have that feeling, thinking about where you're going to celebrate at tonight to it actually being taken from you. And, you know, throwing the ball 3 out of 4 times down there, a couple times to Michael Crabtree, instead of giving the ball to Kaepernick to run it and Frank Gore. So that'll always haunt me.
Yeah, I will say that was like you said, an uncharacteristic game for you guys because I was in the conference, in the division with you guys. So you guys was definitely the most sound defensive team and offensively because you guys stick to what you was going to do. That was going to run the football, get Kaepernick open whenever. But I want to take you back to a play, the cornerback. I can't remember who caught this, but it was a long pass on the Ravens sideline. I think the corner was number Williams, if I'm not. It could have been.
I know exactly what it was.
Yes. Tell me through. Talk to me through that play.
Well, all throughout the week, you get young guys that really want to be famous, and that was really this guy's problem. And it was the young cornerback out of.
I cannot remember his name.
He was 29. Out of
29.
Yes.
Was it
29? I can't remember his name fully right now.
He was a third corner because you had Terrell Brown, Carlos Rogers. Yep. Carlos used to go into the inside.
Yep.
And he come in on the outside.
Yep. Cully. We used to call him Cully.
Yep.
Chris Culliver. That's
there you go. Chris Culliver. There you go. Yep. Chris Culliver.
But during that week, he came out and said that he wouldn't play with a gay teammate, first off. So after they tell you not to excite the other team, not to excite the media, you come out on the biggest day of media television for the NFL and you say, oh, I wouldn't accept a gay teammate. Okay, problem number one. So now we got to answer all of these questions leading into the game. So during that game, remember they had Anquan Bolden, they had Torrey Smith, and they had Jacoby Jones. We felt like Jacoby was not a receiver. We felt like he was just a returner. Chris Culliver, you should be able to line up, show man across the board, and be able to take him out. We're going to look like we're giving you help, but you're pretty much by yourself with him. So back there, both safeties, me and Deshaun, are giving a high cover 2 look. We're playing it like we're playing cover 5, high and wide, right? But we have the inside corners playing it like 2-man, and we have the outside corners playing it like man with no help. So Chris Culliver knows you're not expecting help from anybody. We just have the safeties high and wide to look at these other guys that are threats. Man, he got hit with a double move and got beat. Safety flip over, score a touchdown. After the game, he tried to point the finger at me or the safeties. No, man, you knew exactly what this coverage was. You knew exactly how you were supposed to play it. And then after you give up a touchdown in the Super Bowl, now you don't understand or realize who fault it was. So it was actually his fault. And that's how, when you don't take accountability for your actions out there, you can start to rub people the wrong way. And that's what Chris Culliver did. And that's why his stay wasn't that long in the NFL after that.
Especially in the secondary, you know, that's something that's an unwritten rule. If you get beat for a touchdown, you can't point the finger at somebody else, even if your safety was supposed to be there.
Yeah. And you want to know something?
That we
this
have
is how I watch
ourselves.
tape nowadays, though. When I'm watching tape and I see a young corner get beat and throw his hands up like this, or signal to the fans or the cameras or people that's watching like it wasn't my fault, it was somebody else.
Yeah,
I don't really get down with that. Like, you're not supposed to make any of those actions. We'll talk about it on the sideline.
Internally, no question. And then also, too, you can't be on camera, on TV, pointing like, hey, man, where my help at? Why this dude running into the end zone, man? You know, that's...
Yeah, you know who did that to me one time? When I was in Washington, I spent my last year in Washington. Josh Norman did that. He again ran a deep post. I'm playing quarters, right? Underneath, number 1 is yours, buddy. It's only one vertical. I'm supposed to give you help underneath and make him put some air under the ball, right? So I'm sitting there. You know, Ted, again, he running. When he come up, he running. So I'm like, okay, Josh, here comes a post. Take it. He give me the signal back. I'm underneath, Will underneath, trying to run underneath the ball. Ted runs away from both of us, right? Yeah. He look at me, throw his arms up. I'm like, dude, you know this is quarters. Why would you do this on Monday Night Football?
8 and 9, baby. That's that corner responsibility.
Absolutely, 8 and 9. And you throw your hands up to me on Monday Night Football like it's my fault?
Yeah.
Never spoke to him another day after that.
Yeah, you can't do that. And speaking of that Super Bowl defense that you were a part of, and just basically your tenure throughout San Francisco, like I said, I was a big-time fan of you guys' defense. But following the San Francisco 49ers currently and watching the success they've had, especially in the defensive side of the football, Donte, how would you compare the current San Francisco 49er defenses that we've seen compared to your defenses that you were a part of?
Well, it's similar when it comes down to stats. When it comes down to individual success, I don't think that they're close to us. I don't think people remember how many Pro Bowlers and All-Pros we had on that defense. We had 9 Pro Bowlers on that defense of 11.
Can I give y'all some flowers real quick?
What's that? Yeah, absolutely.
So Pat P, you know, 2011, that defense that y'all had, Navarro Bowman, Pat Willis, yourself, Golston, who used to do that celebration. Anytime they put somebody to sleep across the middle, he's celebrating like this. Carlos Rogers, who was in my draft. Justin Smith. Oh, my goodness.
Alden Smith.
Listen, I tell people this all the time. If Alden Smith stayed on course, Alden Smith would have been the best pass rusher of our era.
Ever. Probably in the history of the NFL.
Facts. Alden Smith was a guy who just had the uncanny ability to get home to the quarterback with speed, strength, or just brute ability that I'm going to uproot you. Alden Smith was so special, and people don't talk about him because of what happened off the field that led to his early, exit out of the NFL. But Aldon Smith, man, one of the more talented pass rushers, and Von Miller was great at what he did. Those guys, Pat, y'all in the same draft.
I know.
Right?
I know.
Well, Aldon Smith?
I compare Aldon Smith and the moves that he was able to put on offensive tackles to Shady McCoy in the way that he ran the football.
See, that's what I was going to say. Aldon Smith reminded me of Chandler Jones, as far as his unorthodox movement, the way he's able to bend. Like he was had a straight arm. Like he was just very, very creative on how to approach the quarterback.
Yeah, he wasn't a robot. Like they might have him rushing outside, but if he put a move on that's so good, he was able to go inside and get back skinny and keep his balance. Yeah. He was almost like a lanky gummy bear with the way he was able to move. Yep. Right? He was like a slinky, man. Listen, he was like a slinky. He wasn't tall and stiff. He could bend at the waist. He could bend at the knees. And he had an extra gear. During the game, he would just be like, somebody make him mad, I'm going to get a sack. And he'll pop up and get a sack. Yeah. I don't think you remember. He had 6 sacks versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe.
Monday Night Football.
On Monday Night Football. Yeah. The guy was almost... He almost set the season. Man. Yeah, he almost set the single season sack record. Right? He was doing things that nobody else was doing. So if he didn't get derailed by the off-field stuff, man, he probably could have led the league in sacks overall over his career.
I think Aldon Smith, if he stayed focused, number one, he would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yes.
He would have been a Super Bowl champion at some point, and he probably would be at the top of the history in the game when it was all said and done with sacks, because he just
and one more thing, and getting paid.
Oh,
yeah, he definitely got paid.
He should have been making Aaron Donald type of money as a defensive end, and he should have demanded before Aaron Donald did.
Aldon Smith was special.
He was special, man.
And another thing I used to like about you guys, and I just got to get y'all, I'm a fan of football. I'm a fan of physical defense. So anytime I get a chance to talk to a guy, when I used to watch y'all play and being a part of the league, like, that's how you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be a straight goon out there. When y'all kickoff team used to play that Tony Montana, that's not the future. Before in Candlestick Park, man, I know Levi Stadium is a nice environment right now, but Candlestick Park, especially in the postseason, when they used to play that Tony Montana before that opening kickoff, somebody was going to sleep.
Absolutely, somebody was going to sleep. And you should have been there. It was just, I've never felt an electric environment like Candlestick. And even though it wasn't the biggest and the glamorous, you still felt that historic mystique of Ronnie Lott and Joe Montana and all of these guys, Jerry Rice, right? The ceiling might have been leaking and falling down. The carpet might have been stained. But when you were walking down that tunnel, you knew that you were like, this is history right here, right? Yeah. So I miss those days. It's Levi Stadium is not the same as Candlestick. It's far from it.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to play in both of those, and the energy is definitely not. I mean, it gets loud in Levi, but Candlestick, especially once that sun go to falling down and get a little nippy.
Yeah, it's starting to get dark.
You better have them 7 studs on. You know you can be
got a little ball in the background. Oh my gosh. But hitting them before we let you go, before we let you get into our superlative, I got to ask you this because I know you covered the team. What is it going to take for Coach Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers to get over the hump? Because they've been to 2 Super Bowls in the last 4 years, NFC Championship the last 3 years. What is it going to take for your guys, your 49ers, to get over the hump this year?
We're just going to have to nut up and be in the moment and win one game. And even like last year, they were leading all the way into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And we've seen that before in the fourth quarter. We came back during our years in the fourth quarter, but it's really just not good enough. Yeah. And it's going to take every individual to, just like Spencer Buford, when they say, how did you allow their best defensive player right in front of you to penetrate and hurry up Brock Purdy's throw in that fourth quarter throw? It's going to be everybody treating it like it's a normal game, limiting the mistakes, and then just conquering the moment. That's what it's going to take. When you get to that Super Bowl, like I said, it doesn't feel like a normal game. You have to do anything and everything you do to just come out 1 point victorious. Yeah. So that's what it's going to take this year. It's not going to be easy. They're always the hunted. but they're just so much more talented than a lot of teams in the NFL. They stay healthy. It's almost guaranteed that they're not going to endure the NFC championship. So it's going to take mental fortitude. It's going to take a lot of luck. But ultimately, they just have to come through in the moment and just capture that moment.
All right, so Donte, before we let you go, we're going to transition to the superlative part of our show. We're going to hit you with rapid fire questions. We want your honest, unbiased answer. Pat P, you got the first one.
Best offensive player you played against in your career.
Best offensive player I played against in my career, I would have to say Megatron. I would have to say Megatron. I don't think people know how just big this guy was when he's standing out there. I remember the first time I saw him. I know you don't remember the first. Yeah, that one picture when he's looking at you and his visor and all that. Yeah, that's like a legendary picture. But I don't think people understand how long the guy's arms and his torso was. It's almost like this is a fucking creative player out here, right? Yeah. It's like, man, I think he hit us for like 2-something that day. Trying to play cover 2 every snap, still didn't work. So I would have to say Megatron, and another one I would throw in there would be Marshawn Lynch. Right? For guys that like to hit, he was our biggest nemesis in San Francisco. We knew that he was going to bring it each and every game, and he knew that we were going to bring it. There would be times where I would be holding him, Deshaun would come across and hit his helmet and knock him out. You could feel his body go limp, and he'd get up, fix his helmet, run to the sideline, and come right back. That's stuff that other backs wouldn't do versus us.
No question.
Right? So you couldn't intimidate him. You couldn't hit him hard enough. He was going to keep coming over and over and over and over. So it's those 2 guys.
That's a good list. Good list. Highly respected. And I think Marshawn should get an opportunity to get into the Hall of Fame as well at some point.
100%.
Yeah, Calvin is already there. I got one for you. So you played for 4 NFL organizations throughout your career. Buffalo, San Francisco, Washington. Which team will win a Super Bowl first?
Well, you left Cleveland off of there, too.
In Cleveland, my bad. I forgot Cleveland.
Yeah. So you
Buffalo,
already know
San Francisco, Cleveland, Washington.
I think it's between, I have to say the San Francisco 49ers. I really have them penciled in to get it done this year. And I know we say this every year, but they're knocking on the doorstep, and they're 1 or 2 plays away from winning the Super Bowl last year if they call some holding penalties. Right?
Yep.
A lot of those obvious holding penalties would have probably, would have changed the outcome of that game. I think the Buffalo Bills have a shot. Right? Even though they have a bunch of like what people would consider no-name receivers right now. Yep. I think that what Josh can do at the quarterback position, it just it can make up for a lot of the things that they're missing and deficient at on the offensive side of the ball. So I think the San Francisco 49ers and then the Buffalo Bills are close second.
No love for the Browns with all the success.
No, man. No. No, man. No. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. I have to see it to believe it. Last year they had the number 1 defense in the league. That's going to be hard to replicate, but they still have a lot of those pieces that are returning. So if they can get that, and they can get the quarterback position back to playing the way that he played in Houston, I think that they might have a shot, but I don't see it happening.
Yes, sir. Pat, you got the last one?
The best head coach that you played for. I know you're probably going to say Jim Harbaugh, but in your opinion, who is the best head coach that you played for? Because that's obviously you had the most success with him, but the best head coach you played with.
Yeah, I'm not even going to go Jim Harbaugh. I'm going to go another Jim. I'm going to go Jim Tressel.
Tressel. I knew
Jim Tressel. Man,
Gold
Jim
top.
Tressel came to the middle of the ghetto and sat on my couch. I was riding through my hood the other day, went to a football camp with Justin Hardy, and I was just looking around at a lot of the despair and the hopelessness. And I was thinking, for a head coach of Jim Tressel's background to be comfortable coming into the neighborhood years ago, sitting on my couch, it took a lot to do that. And then when you get to an organization and you're playing for a head coach, how often do we see coaches change? The personality changed, the way that they treated you to get you there changed. He never changed. The only thing that he coached was family, football, and faith. And it was every day he would coach that. To where during camp, getting ready for the season, he would have one of the guys get up there and read a chapter of the book. We would all have to sit and talk about it. He would pick some guys. He would make sure that you knew all your teammates' names and cities they came from, positions they played, and everything. So he was more of a natural people person, and he understood how to build communities and camaraderie. And he always cared about you, even if there was no football for you. And I've seen this now for guys that are from my high school that played at Ohio State. If ever you need Coach Trussell for something, he's one of those coaches that will pick up the phone and do everything he can do to help you.
That's dope.
So I would say Jim Trussell. I learned a lot from Jim Trussell.
That's dope. That's dope. Last one I have for you. With all the potential wide receiver trade talk associated with the San Francisco 49ers, if you had to pick one wide receiver that might not be with this team week one, who is that wide receiver? Who would that wide receiver be?
I don't know. He's not in the San Francisco 49ers building. I think they're going to have all their guys.
So you think Debo, Brandon Ayuk, all will be in play?
I think they all will be available week one. Right now, like we've all been through contract disputes.
Yep.
Brandon Ayuk, he went out and had an all-pro year.
Yeah,
he's consistently gotten better each and every year. I think that we can agree and say that he's the 49ers' best downfield route threat.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And he does it without getting fed the football. He does it on probably 5 or 6 targets a game. Right? A lot of these guys around the league, like the receiver up in Detroit, they get fed 10, 15 targets sometimes a game. So he's doing it in an efficient way. So I think that he's going to get paid. It's just the business of it. It's just them figuring out how to find the money and coming to an agreement on a contract. But he demands what he demands. Right now, between St. Brown and the other receiver that just got paid, Justin Jefferson, I think that it's somewhere around $25, $26 to $30 million a year.
They say he turned
on a
down
3-4 year deal. Yeah. So that's what he's going to demand. So it's just about figuring out the terms. They went through it with Bosa. They went through it with Debo. Whenever there's big money on the table, it's going to take some time to figure it out. But he cannot absolutely not touch the field until he gets paid. There is no OTAs and no mini camp. Oh, no. He can't touch the field until he gets paid. So he understands that. So I think they're going to have all their guys, but they're grooming Ricky Pearsall to really take over one of those spots. Because once you have to pay Brock Purdy, now you have to depend on a younger receiver that's making rookie minimum, because you can't pay everybody $30 million a year. And we're not even talking about Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. Like, all of these guys are getting paid top dollar at their position. It's not enough money.
Right. Yeah. I agree with you. Well said. Also, too, I highlighted this in the intro for you, but you talk game, you talk ball, in your post career, but you also have some other endeavors going on as well. You're a partner with Kirkland Hills Capital. Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Kirkland Hills and exactly the main motive in regards to what you guys do and the resources you provide?
Well, I retired 7 years ago, and upon retiring, I wrote some goals down, some things that I wanted to achieve. And at the time, it was very scary for me. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, but I heard these buzzwords being in Silicon Valley in San Francisco, and I always heard venture capital, private equity, public markets, and real estate. And I wanted to be top 1% in the TV world, right? So I wrote these things down, and as I'm looking at them, it's very frightening because I really don't even know what a lot of them mean, right? So I have a partner. His name is James Lethar. He's also a naval officer that worked on Wall Street for the last 17 years for the top families in America, right? The Rothschild family and all these families that have hundreds and millions of dollars in dividends coming in annually. And he manages their dividend growth portfolio. So he worked out with me with a long-term trainer in Cleveland, Ohio, probably 8-9 years ago. We started having these conversations. And as I'm working out, getting ready for my final years in the NFL, I would always hear this guy, passive income, Whitner. You need passive income to replace the NFL paycheck. You got to get passive income. You got to get dividends. So one time I called him after speaking to my a former advisor, and I'm like, my advisor just called me and said I'm up 7% on my portfolio. What does this mean? And he's like, nothing. What's the benchmark? I'm like, oh shit, what's a benchmark? At that moment, I knew that after 7-8 years in the NFL, I didn't know anything about how my money was invested, how it was going to compound, the dividends that I was going to live off of once I retired. I didn't know anything of the sort. So that's when I realized that, okay, this advisor is calling me, telling me I'm up 7% on my portfolio. He's telling me how I'm on my way to financial freedom and building generational wealth. But then I just talked to my friend who was on Wall Street and told me that the market is up 23%, which means that I can make 23% on my money for free. And this guy telling me that he's up 7% and making me feel good about that. He's underperforming by 16 points. That's when I realized that there was so much hidden manipulation and systematic racism, even with the advisors that allow the NFL and NBA players to pick from and choose from. There's a thing called broker-dealers, which are pretty much sales agents that run out and work for Merrill Lynch and all these different guys that are supposed to sell you products on behalf of those big financial institutions. And then you have RIAs who are fiduciaries who have the financial well-being of their clients at their heart because they have Series 65 and can't sell you products. So that was the number one thing, is like understanding the difference between these two different things. So then once I understood the difference, I'm like, okay, what does all the NFL and NBA PA advisors that's on this list, what do they return on average? If you jumble all those guys together, they can't even return you more than 4% on your money. And then you pay them 1%, which means you're netting 3%. A lot of the top families look for 15+% returns, and they're doubling their dividend income every 4.5 years. That's all the wealthy families care about, is the passive income. Then a light bulb went off, like, oh, this is what all the players need to know when they first start getting checks to put the money to work for them. So now you get that passive income bucket rolling. You can replace the NFL paycheck when you retire and turn those dividends on. So Kirtland Hills Capital is a family office. It's a financial institution with over $100 million in assets under management. And we have active managers, which means 1 or 2 people pick these things and generate your returns. So that's really what it is. So you have guys like Aaron Rodgers has his own family office. Tom Brady has his own family office, where you have venture, you have a top 1% venture person, top 1% real estate person, top private equity, and public markets, all 4 of those. And then when you build that bucket of money up, like the passive income and the stocks, now you ever hear Jay-Z say, you want to know what's more important than throwing money in a strip club? Credit. You want to know why all the Jewish people own all the properties in America? This is how they did it. You build that up to 10, 15, 20 million, and then you loan against it with an LMA loan to do another passive income with multi-unit apartment complexes. So now with 20% down payment that the bank is going to put down, other people's money, you own 100% of the cash flows from those properties.
Right.
So this is the playbook that nobody teaches us when we come into the NFL.
Say that again.
This is the playbook that we don't get when we come into the NFL.
So
guys just live off principle.
I got a question for you, Donte.
Yeah.
That's a true statement in regards to what we didn't know, right? How are you changing that narrative?
Well, we're educating first and foremost. We take all the misconceptions and everything out of it, all the manipulation out of it. A lot of this is just pure numbers and math. So this is how we're changing it. We bring families in, bring players in, and educate them on the difference first and foremost. And then we analyze their portfolios and show them where they're probably being cheated. Because a lot of times if somebody is portraying like they provide value knowing that they don't to you, and they're still taking fees from you, and they're not bringing back the equal value or an excess in value, they're probably stealing from you. Now, it doesn't have to be directly stealing, but inadvertently I'm stealing from you because I'm not providing the value that you're providing me with the fee.
Right.
So that's what we do. We teach the families from ground up because we don't come from families that sit at the dinner table and read the Wall Street Journal, that understand what the S&P 500 is, They understand about these different investment tools or ETF fund. We don't sit with those families. So when you get that big chunk of money at 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, a lot of us have dealt with scarcity all our lives, so we just want to spend. We want to feel good. We want to feel valuable. We want the new house, the chain, and the car, right? But that's not really how it should go. A rookie coming into the NFL, if you take signing bonus out of it, can really only leave out of that first contract with about 1.5 to up to $2 million if he does everything correctly. That's not enough money to live your entire life on. Majority of the league, players don't even play 4 years. But these same guys, if you put that money to work and then you turn that faucet of passive income on and dividends and you build it 4.5 years, within 9 years, you should have doubled or tripled your dividend income. So we work with some guys right now, like Larry Ogunjobi from the Steelers. We work with him. We work with Patrick Willis. We work with an ex-teammate of mine, Dan Scooter. We work with Daniel Thomas from the Jacksonville Jaguars, safety. So a lot of these guys are starting to understand this a lot earlier and starting to put the money to work for them. Another thing is, we talk about that LMA loan that you lend against your portfolio, the companies that you own to do multi-unit apartment complexes. There are a lot of financial advisors because they don't want you to move your money or one day wake up and miraculously understand that they're underperforming. They'll give you those type of loans to buy the jewelry and the cars and the houses with. It's almost like a line of credit that you're paying 8% on, and then that gets to about $2, $3, $4 million. You locked in because now you're not going to take your money and pay this, so you got to try to slowly pay this off. So there's a lot of hidden manipulations and things that go into this, but I have the blueprint, and I've learned this from my good partner at Kirtland Hills Capital, James Luthard, who continues to educate me daily and educate a lot of the athletes that we have in our network about how to generate passive income. If we can do that and teach all the guys how to generate passive income and replace the NFL and NBA paycheck, you won't see guys in financial distress. You just won't see it.
Yeah, and
awesome,
also, if that's the case, you won't hear a lot of guys, talking about depression and having dark times, because when you leave the game, the lights don't follow you, but when the lights don't follow you and you look at your accounts and it's not the same, it hurts even more. Because you can't go back and get them NFL checks that you were.
Absolutely. And then developing skills before you retire, understanding that the NFL Shield provides you with one of the best networks of people that you could ever have around you. From the top business professionals to lawyers to just everything that you could get. So understanding that, and then we have to have empathy as well, because when you come from our socioeconomic background, there's not a lot of guidance when you get to this level. Now it's all about how much of a seeker are you? Are you able to slow down to be able to absorb the information, to know the questions to ask? So it's about developing those skills so that when you do transition into civilian society, that you're prepared for it. Along with cutting out the drinking, because we've seen that devastate guys, right? You have to build up your network of people that's around you that you can lean on once you're done playing. Because when you're done playing, the homie's not going to be able to help you. If you got 6, 8, 10 homies around, when you're trying to figure it out and trying to make money post-retirement, the homies can't help you. The homies don't have that information. So you probably need to attach with people that don't look like you, talk like you, or come from diverse backgrounds so that they can help you during the transitional phase. Because this is why we see guys do the healthcare fraud and all this other stuff and try to find quick money, is because they don't have that strong network to really lead them in the right direction.
Yeah. One thing I say when I talk to a lot of current players now is when you talk about that transition when the league is over, when they say either you're not good anymore or we don't want you anymore, you got to think about the end in the beginning. Start creating that game plan then. Because at some point in time, the end is going to happen, regardless of who you are. Yeah. But if you start thinking about the end while you're in the midst of all these lavish opportunities, whenever that end, when the fourth quarter hits, you okay. When the game is over, I got a whole nother game plan in place. So that's something that a lot of guys don't do, because we all live the here and now, because we're living our dream. Testosterone
driven, immediate decisions. You want it right now. but that's different than investing. Investing is boring and slow.
Yeah.
And the heartbreaking thing about all of this is we've all been in NFL locker rooms, and we just talked about what a family office is, and every NFL and NBA owner has a family office. Every NFL owner and NBA owner all invest the same way. They only care about passive income. They only care about high dividend paying companies. So I think back and I'm like, so why didn't they just come down and give us a 45-minute presentation on how they invest their money? Why have to hire some people that want to teach 401k and really all they talk about is credit and this and that? Like on a high level, why aren't the owners coming down and really having the people that manage their money put a simple presentation, almost like football, together to show them the hierarchy of investing, to show how easy it is to get wealthy once you've already done the hard thing and you've gotten rich? Why don't they give the formula?
It's good, great question.
Because if you have too many NFL players that are too financially stable and they can live 2, 3, 4 years off passive income and don't have to play football games, what does that do to the CBA?
Changes it.
Now the players are like, we ain't playing football. We're going to negotiate our own CBA. We're going to get the percentage that we deserve in the CBA. We're all financially strong. We don't need to play football. So when you can keep a lot of the players in financial distress and they need that game check, you always have the power in your hands. So this is why these things are set up systematically like this. So we have to teach it on an individual basis.
Yeah.
So they all invest the same. So the portfolios of the guys that we work with look exactly and identical as the top family offices and owners in the NFL.
That's what's up.
That's dope.
There's no secret to this. It's like identical. They might own more of the individual companies, but they own the same companies that I own and the guys that we work with own.
That's deep.
High dividend paying companies. Like, yeah, Nike and these companies raise their dividend every year. They have a competitive advantage and they can price it at whatever they want. They know this information. I wonder why I never heard this in the building when there's so many people that understand this that work for the family offices of the NFL teams and the NBA teams.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, you're doing a great job, along with your partners in Kirkland Hills. And this is a quality sound conversation, man. And we might have to bring you back on in the near future.
Man, we can talk about this all day, man.
Just talk finances.
That's
You know
it.
what I mean? Just talk
how we gonna get
finances,
this right?
my guy.
And stop the guys from being in despair, because it's not a good sight when you see guys that made $20-30 million and then they're calling and they need $500.
Right.
Yeah.
That person has a family. That person has bills. It's like, what else is going on? And it's so we hear guys talk about suicide and all these different things. Of course you want to do that.
No question.
Well, that was a great combo there, Donte, man. We appreciate you, my guy.
Yes, sir, man.
No doubt.
I hope our audience, our viewers, enjoyed this conversation. Hit us up in our comment section as well. Give us your thoughts, feedback. Our guest, man, Donte Whitner, 2006 first-round draft pick by the Buffalo Bills, 3-time Pro Bowler, Ohio State Buckeye, great. Partnering with the Kirkland Hills Capital as well. Finances, the whole nine, man, is doing a great job, man. Follow him on social media, man. You 49er fans, Washington fans, Buffalo Bills fans. I'm missing one. Browns, Cleveland,
Browns.
Ohio State, man. Show this man some love, man. He's doing some big time things. And like I said, in the near future, we're gonna get you back on, man. Just do a finance
Absolutely.
episode, bro. Finance episode. I think it will definitely be wanted and needed when you talk about either a lot of players currently and former are either misinformed or uninformed. Either case is not good.
No,
Not good at all. You know what I mean? So
for sure.
Thank you for coming on, man, giving us a few moments of your evening talking ball and talking finances, man. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Big time football player, play on some great defenses, and you're doing big time things. So we salute you. You always got a chair at our table. All things
Yes,
covered.
sir. I appreciate it. You
Thank
guys
you.
have a good one. Thanks for having me.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
Donte, you too, brother.
Yeah, money, 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 money. Ain't that funny? I got haters. Yeah, they watching, but I know they love me. Money, 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 money. Ain't that that funny, I got haters. Yeah, they watching, but I know they love me. Riding around the city, plastic cup of C-Rock. Bigger and I'm blacker, I am on that Chris Rock.